Wow, rank rematching. Ooh, people get angry about this topic. This video was inspired. I can't remember if it was a Twitter post or a Facebook post or both, but in the last couple months, I've seen somebody put up a post and they was basically like, people need to shut up about saying people need to rematch in rank. And I seen an opposing post, not to that one, just somebody else putting up a post saying if you don't rematch in rank, then you are, you know, beep, whatever. And it doesn't shock me that this is a passionate topic, but I think what shocks me is that when I read through the post on both sides, I have heard a certain level of validity in both arguments, at least in my opinion. But anyway, it inspired me and I figured I should make a video about it because I want to hear you guys' thoughts and I'll give you my thoughts on it as well. But yeah, the whole point in this video is just put this in the comments below. Answer this question. Do you guys feel your opponent should at least rematch you one time in rank, win or lose? Do you feel that they should rematch you at least once? Because I will admit, even on my end, it is frustrating to have a close match against somebody. They win one time and then they leave. I'm not going to say that's not frustrating, because it is. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it doesn't annoy me sometimes. That's not the same thing as saying they have to rematch, though. We'll get into that. Something I would like Namco to implement for Tekken 8. I do believe for them to do this, we need much better netcode and better protocols in place to stop cheating. But I do think they should implement a rank system similar to Mortal Kombat, not the rank up process where they reset and all that every single season. Or maybe they should, I don't know. I don't think they should do that, but I think they should implement the best 2 out of 3. Mortal Kombat has a best 2 out of 3 in rank, and basically if you leave before that, you get penalized. And I think that's a good thing, because I like the fact that they're simulating offline tournaments when they do that. I think that's a good thing. I don't think they can do that with the way the netcode is now, but once it is properly set up and if the cheating thing is actually died down or gone, I think that's a very, very, very good idea. And I think you should get the same amount of points you get per match, not per best out of 3. You should win or lose the same amount of points in rank per match. That's just my opinion. You guys post in the comments below if you actually think that's a good idea or not. Okay, all right, let's get into this. Is it wrong not to rematch in rank? If you're playing rank, is it wrong if you choose not to rematch? In my opinion, no, it is not wrong. At the end of the day, this is just a game. And if you're just playing for fun, or you only have fun playing certain characters or certain people, I don't think anybody should judge you if you don't want to rematch. You don't have to rematch. Okay? You don't. Now, I would add an additional question to that and say, if you're just playing for fun, then why not play quick match? That's what I would ask you guys. If you can answer that in the comments, I would love to hear. Why not just play quick match? I know on one hand you can say, well, hey, in quick match, I might be mighty ruler level or whatever, if you want to use ranks to define your level, and I'm playing against somebody that's first dan. That's not fun. I agree. That would not be fun. But at least in my experience, I would say in quick match, most of the time, not all of the time, you can match up with somebody that's first dan, but most of the time, you will match up with somebody around your level. So if it's just for fun, I don't think you need to play rank. Now, you could say, well, I'm playing rank seriously. I'm trying to use this as best as I can to assess my skill level. You know, I don't go offline. I don't have locals. I don't go to majors, and that's fine. Then my other question to you would be, why not rematch? So if you're playing somebody and you know for a fact, or you don't know they're a cheater. I mean, we don't always know, but if you know they're a cheater, you want to rematch, I guess that's my point. That's fine. But if you don't know if they're a cheater, you have a good net code, then I would say, well, why not rematch? Simply because if you beat somebody, and I'm in this case, I'm talking about just one game, because for the people who just win and leave, if you beat somebody and you really want to get an idea to see how good you are now, I actually feel like that's very hard to do in rank, period, especially in short sets. I think that's hard to do. But if you want to have a better idea of how good you are in reference to that person, why not give them at least 1, 2, or 3 chances to see if they can adapt to you? Because if they can adapt to you and you can still beat them, I think that will give you a little bit better idea of where you stand with that person. A little bit. I don't think that guarantees you're better than that person, but it will give you a little bit better of an idea versus winning and leaving. So again, post your comments below why you don't do that. If that is the case, I would love to hear that. Now, I just asked you guys, is it wrong not to rematch? And I said no, and I stand by that. I really do. I think as a player, it is your right and choice to rematch or not rematch as you see fit, as long as you play honestly. You know, if you didn't cheat or whatever, and if you cheat, you probably shouldn't even be playing rank, okay, at the end of the day. Now, should you rematch is another question. And in most cases, I do think you should rematch. If the person isn't cheating, if the netcode is quality, whether it's a character you like or don't like, then yeah, I think you should rematch. I do. I think you should play some form of a set when you're playing rank, whether that's best of 3, 5, 7, or whatever. It's probably why I said once they get the netcode better and they hopefully can reduce or stop the cheating, I think in Tekken 8 they should force a best out of 3 with an option to continuously run a deathmatch should you so choose, in my opinion. And the main reason for that is, yeah, like I said, I don't think that's going to define who's better unless you guys run a long enough deathmatch. But I think giving your opponent the chance to adapt to you and you being able to beat that adaptation or adapting to their adaptation will just make you a better player, which is what they're trying to do in rank at the end of the day. You know, or at least what I feel like you should be playing rank for at the end of the day. That might be the best way you can to become a better player and test yourself. So yes, I do think you should rematch. Now, I've heard some people say, and this is one of those things I actually feel is somewhat of a valid point on the end of not wanting to rematch. They said that I want to play as many people as possible. I want to play a match and then move on and play as many people so I can learn more stuff because I'm newer to the game. That makes sense. It does. It really, really does. There's so much to Tekken and there's so many characters that you want to at least get to the point where the most popular characters, you can understand some of their core weaknesses at the very least. What I would say to that though is that if you run at least a best out of 3, I don't think that's going to hurt you. It'll probably even help you, because the more you play against a character, the better chances are of you remembering some of the things you've learned against that character with more matches. I mean, that might sound like duh, but I don't know. Some people might not see it that way, but yeah, I think that would help you, and I don't think that would hurt you. At the very least, best of 3. But honestly, if I'm being honest, as long as you play Tekken long enough, then I don't think it's gonna hurt you either. So if you, for example, you'll play 5 characters one day, and yeah, you may have wanted to play 20, and in those 5 characters you play a deathmatch and rank against all 5. If you keep playing Tekken, you're probably going to come across 5 different characters, and the longer you play those characters, whether it was the day before or that day, I feel like it's a better chance of you remembering stuff. Because what typically happens is you come across the same 15 characters, you know, in terms of popularity, and then you play a character that's still a strong character that you may have learned how to beat, and you've forgotten the whole matchup. You know, you played them today and you don't see them again for 6 months. So if at least when you did play them, you ran a long death match, I think that increased your chances of remembering how to deal with some of their moves or some of the weaknesses that may come to that character. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong about that. I don't think I am. But yeah, for the most part, I think that if you can, you should rematch. Now, from the flip side of that, in cases where you're rematching people, despite everything I said, if they're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and basically they're not playing intelligently, that actually potentially may hurt you. I do think there are cases when you're playing against certain people and they're playing a certain way, and even though you're winning, it could potentially make you weaker when you play a more skilled, fundamentally based player using that same character. So that's something to think about. Anyway, if you guys like this content, please consider liking and subscribing. As I always say, all support is very, very much appreciated. This is Acid Light. You guys take care.